actually spent quite a lot of time on this topic on individuals. Okay? Alright? Okay, without much further ado, since I think most of you guys are all here. Okay. I've left, this is the answer we just did with regards to the partnership question. I will leave it here. And remember, this is a continuation from last week's lesson. Okay, remember. So now, let's do this. Now, first thing again, you read the question. See, this is what I meant. Remember earlier when we do the question, I was telling you, read to see whether or not you need to include all those items which are, no need to actually include, not added back, or, not taxable items. This question is on partner, is on individual. So if the examiner wants you to include all the items, he will give you like this in a paragraph. So you see, you need to give reasons for inclusion or exclusion of all the items. Okay? And cannot just merely write it as excluded, blah, blah, blah. So you can read on. So this is like an example of how sometimes the exam questions will be worded. You follow what is given in the exam question. Naturally, when you look at the question and you find that, for this question, they have given me, let's say, 25 marks, 30 marks. Then naturally, you must know, okay, better write. Even if they never ask better write. Why? Because how are they going to allocate the marks to you otherwise, right? So you will be able to gauge from the marks allocated. So don't forget. Okay. Alright, so this is just to show you an example. Okay, with that, let's start. Okay. Now, remember, as far as format, with regards to individuals tax form, it is very similar to what we have already done. Okay, we have actually done the entire revision question, which was meant as a question to be done in the last lecture. But like I told you, right, I already did that. Okay, what do I mean by this? Remember this set of questions that we have already done? Okay, now remember this set we already done in our lecture 6. Right? Lecture 6, we did the entire set. Now that one is important. So you must go through the entire segment. You must be able to make sure you understand how each of the figures and the method of computation with regards to all the values were derived. Okay, that's fine as far as the revision question. Okay, so that's this set. Now, and notice I'm emphasizing so much on individuals, so make sure you go back and practice, okay? And the next one, which I keep on telling you guys, is this one. I just printed just to make sure you know what I'm talking about. Go through this one is, chapter 7 of your relief rebates topic, okay? Chapter 7 of your relief and rebates topic. Obviously, of course, this is the latest edition, but you could be referring to your earlier editions, is fine. But you must know your exam question is on YAE 2018 and all the updates has already been given in class. So go through. Okay? So you see, if you they have a list of questions there for you. Okay? Behind the topic on Chapter 7, personal relief and tax rebate. Okay? So this is what I mean. Go through all the questions and you have suggested solutions. Alright, at the back of the book, please go through. Okay, so this, just to show you, is a list of suggested solution answers for the questions that is given to you at the back of your Chapter 7 text workbook on personal relief and rebates. Okay, go through, and this one we have already done. I think most of you are now in now. So start. Okay, this segment, we are done. So literally follow that. Follow the same thing in order to do this Tom Warwick's case. Okay, let's start. How are we going to do? As far as the title, just simply write the name of the individual. Okay, Tom Warwick. Okay, Tom Warwick, and the relevant year of assessment. Now, in this question, which is uploaded for you in Canvas, the examiner asks you to compute for YAE 2017. So I will still follow this. alright, because of the question. But I will update you on what is the difference between YA 2017 and YA 2018 again. You already have it, but we will go through that again, so you know, alright? Okay. So I'm still writing down YA 2017 and relevant year of assessment. Now, relevant year of assessment, looking at the question, I will take it that you've already read. He is actually working for the entire year. So you see, he arrived on this date and he commenced his employment from then on. So, 1/1/2016. Okay, done. Okay? Now, read your first paragraph. You see, as far as individual question is concerned, right, the beauty of it now is it is so much more simpler compared to the previous years. Okay? So I can just follow each of the paragraph and accordingly compute the values. No problem. Okay? So therefore, looking at this first segment, they already tell you company paid so much airfare for him and the family to come to Singapore. Now, your job is, this is employment income topic, topic 2, okay? So, is to decide whether is this considered as a employment income which is subject to tax? And your answer will be no, alright? It is not taxable. Why? Because remember, the question actually asks you to explain, right? Why is it subject to tax or why not taxable? Okay, so I'm just going to give you briefly, but please build up on this based on your topic 2. Okay, so it is a relocation cost, alright, and therefore not taxable. Relocation will not be taxable at all. Okay, we have actually gone through everything under the second lecture. Okay, so just very quickly. Now remember, every lesson, I've actually given you a brief, like a mind map kind of thing. So that is to facilitate your revision plans. Okay? So when you are revising, you must go through those. Okay? So remember, now we are talking about relocation. What have we learned? So when you study it along with all these write-ups. Okay? So we have said, right, okay, anything on relocation is not taxable on the actual expenses. So obviously now when the question tells you the actual expenses incurred is 5600, then the entire amount is not taxable. Is it okay? So study it along these lines. Okay. Alright, done. Next. Now the next component, this entire paragraph here is talking about what? Salary, bonus. So again, immediately you must remember what we have actually gone through with regards to source concept, remittance concept. That's primarily what they are testing you on here. Okay? So again, very, very briefly, but remember, you must know. This one very important. Sure, you cannot run away from the source concept, remittance concept. We have actually gone through this. Correct? Now remember, the models is to help you to understand and analyze the exact question. Do not present your answer in this manner. Your examiner will not give you marks. Remember, this is for you. So that when you answer, you are asking yourself, hey, actually, is this question pertaining to this section, this section, or is it this question, is it talking about remittance? Then how do I answer? Have I covered all these angles like that? It's for you. You okay? So when you answer, you must answer complete sentence. Don't draw models for your examiner. No marks one. Okay? So remember that. So all these things, I'm not going to go through now again, but everything is here. Any question, you definitely will have questions on this, let me tell you. Definite. Okay? So it is actually how you are going to apply this to the question. You mustn't forget. So based on remittance means I must know. Oh, if it is a remittance, right, is it subject to tax? Okay, so when you cannot just simply say, oh, remittance are not taxable, full stop. Follow? Why? Because if it is a remittance, then you have to ask, hey, remittance, it is only not taxable if it is strictly sourced outside and you never even bring it to Singapore. But let's say you bring it to Singapore, how are you going to answer? So your answer would be what? It is sourced outside Singapore, alright, and based on this alone, you will not be taxable. And if there is, then you will be saying, right, is it sourced outside Singapore? No. Is there any remittance? No. Not sourced outside Singapore, not remitted into Singapore, not taxable. But if it is remitted, then you are checking to see whether is it specifically exempted. So anything remitted into Singapore is tax exempt. Alright, don't just say not taxable. Not taxable means here, you have to say it is tax exempt and under section 13. You follow? So likewise, build up your answers. Alright, okay. Now, so straight away, So as I go through, I'm actually covering all the other aspects pertaining to individuals. So take note. So looking at this, you know already, 84,000, you have to decide where is the source. Right? So immediately you must know, hey, this one sourced in Singapore. Correct? Sourced in Singapore. How do I know? Then again, you need to know all those rules that we have actually gone through pertaining to what? Employment income. Remember this portion that we have gone through. Important. Where is the person exercising employment? Alright? How do I decide where is the source with regards to employment? Is it considered as an extension or incidental to the employment income? Okay, so all these are important. Okay, so you have actually applied all this with regards to this question. Now, this question may not demand you to that extent. But remember, the principles that you have learned are what you're also going to apply for DTA. It's exactly the same. Alright? Okay. Now, after this, from this scenario given, you should know that, oh, okay, the salary 100% taxable in Singapore, right? 100% taxable. And the bonus also 100% taxable. Alright, and remember for bonus, check contractual, non-contractual, bonus, all these things, okay? Now, looking at the question, the next paragraph, this one here, okay, we have handled. This one talks about leave passage. I will not walk through the question, okay? Now, leave passage, what have you learned? You have learned pertaining to leave passage that if I am doing the question, alright, if I'm doing the question for YA 2017, alright, then I will restrict the amount to 20%, correct? Remember, that is only for YA 2017, this one. Remember, I put out for you, for Mr. Hardworking, how to do for YA 2017 as well as YA 2018. So you need to know, right? Now we are doing it for YA 2017, meaning leave passage restricted. Okay? Restricted meaning to say what? They are given a concession, even though this 20,000, right, is actually for traveling to his home country. Because he is traveling to his home country, he will only be taxed at 20%. Now this is the rule that is applied here. Okay? So therefore, looking at this question, going back to the home country, so this entire amount taxed at 20%. And subsequently, he is given another trip for the wife, or this one, no concession, 100%. And for the child, in the case of the child, the concession is 2 times. They will be able to get 2 trips at a concession of at 20%. Concession 2 times is applicable in the case of the children. So the 2,000 also is taxed at 20%. This is for YA 2017. Okay, YA 2017. So let me write that down. So leave passage, alright, is tax. How much is tax? Is based on this amount. How did I derive this? Because this and this are taxed at 20% only. That's how I derive this total value. Now, if I'm doing the same question, ladies and gentlemen, for YA 2018, what would I have done? Then you take a look at what you have done for Mr. Hardworking. Okay, I already told you exam question is definitely YA 2018. Okay, but you need to take note of the differences. That is why they are actually giving you all this, because yours is open book. Remember, yours is the only module in all the tax exams that I've ever come across which is open book. So it's because of that they have to justify. Why is it in this case it is open book. That is why you have to know how the tax is involved. Okay? Now, you see, in the case of same question, Mr. Hardworking, YA 2018, where is the difference? You see, very easy. When it comes to leave passage, I don't restrict her. Entire amount, 100% taxable. So what would have been my answer if I am doing this Tom Warwick's case, right? Okay, if I'm doing this Tom Warwick's case for YA 2018, very simple. I just see, okay, all these passages, 10,000 given back to go home. Nothing to do with business trip, okay, taxable, full amount. And then on top of that, 3,000 taxable full amount, 2,000 taxable full amount. So the total, 15,000. That's it. You see the difference? That's all. Alright, that's the difference. In fact, that is the only difference, okay, as far as the taxability, okay. The other one is pertaining to the rebate, which we will talk about in a short while. That's all. So other than that, everything's same. Alright, okay, this one done. Okay, let's proceed. Okay, this one done. Now, next paragraph is talking about a gift voucher. Now, notice this gift voucher is given to all employees every time. So, it is something which is expected, okay, to be given every time to the employees, and therefore it becomes taxable. Okay, so gift voucher. Alright, how much? So much is taxable. Now, next segment. This one is talking about motor car. Right? So, motor car, again, follow all the rules, regulations. Okay, let me write that down. So, motor car, formula 3/7. Okay, then remember the cost of car minus the residual value divided by the useful life. Now they already tell you that this guy is working for the entire year. That means the provision of this motor car is for the entire year. So yeah, I don't need to write 12/12, but I'm just writing it down so that you are aware that in the case of the provision of motor car, I must beware whether is the car being provided for the entire year. Okay? So this one is for the provision of car. Next, check who is paying for the maintenance, and the question tells you it is the employer. Okay? Employer is paying, so it's 55 cents multiplied by the private miles, which again is given in the question. Okay? 5,000. So you see, you look out for all this. Yours is open book. Okay? So you don't have to worry about not remembering the format or formula. You can bring everything into your exam hall. Now you have all the format for it, be it a company question, be it an individual question, partnership, sole proprietorship. That's all. Okay? So with that, will give you a taxable value of so much. Now the same paragraph also tells you about the driver's salary. Is it subject to tax? Definitely. How much? 100% of whatever incurred for private purpose. Private mileage, 5,000. Total mileage, 10,000. Therefore, you apportion, and therefore taxable value is so much. Okay? Okay, done. What is next? Okay, next paragraph. Talking about him entertaining clients. So you see, all this I've already given the summary tables. In other words, like just mind maps. So reimbursement I must know. Okay, reimbursement, how? Taxable or not taxable? Depends on, is it for business purpose or is it for private purpose? So this is for business purpose and therefore not taxable. Okay, so I will put 0. Okay, like that. Next one, compensation. Right? He's given this. Why? For loss of clients. So again, read the chapter. I told you already, the receipts are important. You must know. Given something, is it capital receipt or is it revenue receipt? The guidelines. How do I decide? As well as the case laws to support. Given this kind of scenario, is it a revenue receipt or is it a capital receipt? These kind of things are extremely important. Okay, so again, this one, when you go through your chapter on employment income, alright, one of the sections basically gives you, defines for you what is a capital receipt, what is a revenue receipt. Please go through and it will identify this, what I'm writing down here. Okay, compensation which are given for loss of clients are capital receipts and therefore not taxable. Okay, next. Now the next paragraph, right, is giving you details of the family, right, as well as it is giving you details of his stay in the hotel. It is also giving him details of his stay in the apartment. So let's do the hotel accommodation first. Okay, so hotel accommodation. Alright, and this one I must write the basis period. Why? Because it is, if you don't write the basis period, right, you must always remember, it will fall back on the basis period that you have written here. Okay, so if it is a basis period other than for 12 months, I need to write it down. So this, he's staying in this hotel for only 1 month. Okay, so again, how? Follow the formulas given. I will look at the question to decide what is the cost incurred by employer. Now if you read the question says employer incurred $450 per night. You see? Alright, so basically what we are doing here is, we are taking 450 multiplied by 31 days. Okay? To derive this value. I tell you, I preempt one of your questions, which is, it is per night, what, right? So if you strictly calculate per night, from here to here is 30 nights, you know. Strictly. Alright? So don't worry about all this. Just go for the principle, which is, you know that means I'll take this, multiply by the number of days in order to get this. In the exam, if they give you this question, they'll be more specific. You follow? And let's say, if you want to be prepared for exigencies, imagine this exam question, and you are in the exam doing right. Hey, by the way, don't know whether I should take 30 days or 31. Let's say, now what do? Write it down as your assumption. You know what I'm trying to say? That's why for your exam, because it's open book, your examiner is testing you for principles. Are the students able to apply the principles? What is their understanding and their ability to comprehend and apply it? That's basically what he is doing. Sometimes he actually tests you to see whether if something, that's why it's open book. Just different from others who are always closed book. You follow? Therefore, you no need to worry. If let's say because I made this assumption and my answer is slightly different from my friends, fine. But state your assumption. So what will you do? Let's say, for example, I am actually looking at this and I'm not sure. Should I take 31 or 30 days? I'm not sure, right? Put an asterisk and write down. Tell the examiner, I've assumed that he will be staying in the hotel from this period to this period, but it accounts for 30 nights. And therefore, cost incurred by the employer is this times 30. You see what I'm trying to say? You give this kind of information to examiner. He likes all this. Okay? Because this shows that this student actually knows and is able to actually decipher the question carefully. You see what I mean? This is what they are looking for when you are doing an open book exam. Okay? So don't worry. Don't worry that, what should I do? Raise hand and then query. No need. You make your assumption, but after making, write down. Because they look for all these things. Is that okay? Alright, so don't worry about this. Okay, done. Now, next one from here. I will then less. What is the cost incurred by the employee? Okay. They never mention, that means he never contribute anything else. Okay. Therefore, taxable value so much. Okay, next one. I'm done with this. I'm calculating the taxable value for home accommodation. Okay, now with regards to home accommodation, same thing. What is the basis period? Remember, when you read the question, they tell you thereafter he has been occupying a permanent place of stay, which is from Feb to December. Okay. All right. Now, same thing. After this, write down what is the cost. No, in the case of home accommodation, the formula will be annual value for the period of stay. Okay. So annual value, again the question has calculated it as, or given it to you as 36,000, and he is staying there for 11 months, that is why I apportion accordingly, giving you so much. And against this, I less off the rental contributed by Tom. Okay, and they have given you, he's paying $100 per month. It's just a nominal rate, doesn't matter. You follow the question, remember. You see, you follow whatever the examiner gives you, you know. Okay, give you example. Okay, let's say, okay, I'm actually looking at the revision question. Okay, revision question that is given to you under the chapter 7. Okay, let me show you something. Now you look at this question. You see this? What are they telling you? He contributes CPF at a statutory CPF rate of 13%. Can you see that? But you know what is the actual statutory CPF rate? 20%. Correct or not? That is the correct statutory CPF rate, which is 20%. But if you see that the question tells you that he contributes CPF at statutory rate of 13%, what are you going to do? Follow the question. Okay? The question says 30%, 13%, you take 13% and multiply. You don't go and tell the controller your examiner, your question is wrong, huh? Should be 20% and not 30%, 13%, and therefore I'm going to calculate my value for 20%. You get it? This is called acting smart lah. Alright? Not assume to this extent lah, you know what I mean? Alright? You don't go and dispute the question because the purpose of that's why I tell you, yours is open book, they are testing you for principle. If they tell you, they already tell you here, take 13%, then you just take 13%. But they never tell you, he contributes CPF at a statutory rate, full stop. Never tell you, yes, you better take 20%. You follow? Okay, this is what I'm trying to tell you when I say read and follow the information given in the question. Okay, so done. Done like this. Now after this, remember that paragraph also gives you information on furnishings, and when it comes to furnishing, right, I need to know, is this a partially furnished apartment or a fully furnished apartment, correct? So for that, you have on the next page, can you see? They have given you all those things that the apartment comes with. And what did I tell you? What did we say? Look, the minute this furnishings provided include any kind of appliances besides fittings, it's a fully furnished apartment. Okay? Fitting is only water heater here. Alright? That is the fitting. Everything else is appliances. Now I don't even have to say the other appliances. I just need to say water heater and one washing machine. At least one appliance means it's a fully furnished apartment. Okay? So therefore, it is 50% times the annual value for the period of stay. Okay? So furnishings. Now, for furnishings, remember, I no need to repeat my basis period. Understood? Okay? Alright? Okay, it's 50% times annual value. Alright, and so you calculate them. Okay? Now done. And no other employment income. Okay, that is subject to him, subjected to tax is given. So I'm getting my subtotal. Okay, gross employment income. Now, after this one, then you follow format, everything is the same, alright, as what we have done for Mr. White as well as Mr. Hardworking. So after gross employment income, what is next? I check the question and see, alright, did he make any subscriptions to professional body? And in this question, you find that yes, he has. Besides making subscriptions, he has also paid entrance fee. So immediately you must know only subscriptions is allowed. Okay? So let's start. Gross. So I'm just repeating. So gross employment income. Okay? Less subscriptions. Now of course, if I'm doing my exam, I will also write down entrance fees. And I will write not taxable. Capital receipt. It's a capital payment. Okay, capital expenditure. Why is it a capital expenditure? Because it's a one-time payment. Done. Giving you your subtotal. And this is your statutory employment income. Now, what do you do after that? You are going to look and see whether, hey, this guy, right, did he receive any other sources of income? Okay? This employment income is one source. Did he receive any other sources of income? Alright? So for that matter, when you read the question, on the last paragraph, you can already see he is receiving director's fee. Okay, so immediately I must know what are the things that we have learned with regards to director's fee. First thing, check he received this director's fee so much. Taxable or not depends on where is the source. So when you read the question, what do they tell you? All the directors meetings were exercised in UK. Now remember, with regards to directors' fees, we have learned this. Okay, taxability of directors' fee, I must follow this model. Where are the board of directors meeting held? You know it is all held in UK. That means management and control in UK. That means directorship exercise in UK. That means fees source in UK. That means not taxable in Singapore. Okay, so therefore, based on this guideline, you know it is not subject to tax, and you need to write down. That is why the examiner is asking you, right? If it is something not taxable, state your reasons. So all these are the reasons that you will be writing down. Don't forget, huh? So therefore, director's fee. Not taxable. Okay? Alright? So go through the explanation that we have done. Okay, any more? That's it. He doesn't receive any other income from interest, dividend, rent. Okay, nothing else. If he has, then I would have followed all this and include everything here before I derive my total, which is my SI. In this question, nothing else is received. So this is my total. Okay, so this is my total, which is my SI. Now, from here, what do I do? Okay, you will less off your losses, which are from business source, and approved donation. So you check, and they tell you, he had a small business, which was making a loss. So this is a business loss. So he could be an individual, all right, and he could have carried out a business and he's making a loss. Remember, I will be able to get it as a deduction here. Okay, so what is deductible is only the trade loss. Let's say, for example, this guy also rents out a property, rental. Okay, he has a property which is being rented out, and the property is making a loss. Now, will he be able to get as a deduction here? No. Remember, why? Because the property, the rental income is assessed under section 10(1)(f), okay, and not under section 10(1)(a). So anything which is not assessed under section 10(1)(a), it is a non-trade income, and therefore any loss pertaining to that will not be allowed as a deduction. Non-trade loss, that is your reason, okay? So this one, deductible, because it is a trade loss. Okay? Now what about donations? Now again, donations is very important. We have been going through that right from the very first lecture. They already tell you it is approved, but you must know, in the exam, if the examiner gives you National Kidney Foundation, he may not tell you it is an approved institution. Why? I already told you, right? He wants you to know, since it's open book, that whatever institutions that has already been given to you, be it by way of revision questions in the canvas, or be it from your textbook revision question, he will not state. Okay? So you must be familiar with those institutions that's already mentioned that it is approved. So yes, it is approved, but is this a donation which qualifies? Qualifies? Your answer is no. Why? Not cash. Remember, to be an approved donation, it must be a cash donation. If it is a non-cash donation, then remember we have gone through the exceptions. So go and study. Okay. So this donation, not approved. Okay, and therefore no deduction. If it is approved, how much can I get as a deduction? 2.5 times, don't forget. Okay, all these are rules, so that which we have already done, please revise. That's it, I'm done. I'm getting my subtotal AI. Okay, from here I will then deduct personal relief. Okay, and for this, remember personal relief again is a very important segment. Definitely you will have it if it is a question on individuals. Alright, so when you talk about personal relief, I already told you before you even start anything, write down your earned income relief first. And to gauge what is the amount, you will always be given the relevant information, okay, is below 55. Okay, assuming not given, then you write down for the examiner. You see, if he doesn't tell you the age, you write down. You tell the examiner, okay, the age is not given in the question, so I'm assuming that he is below 55 and therefore the earned income relief that he's entitled to is 1,000. Like that. You see what I mean? He expects you to do all these things because it is more of a, to indicate to the examiner, or in other words, this is why it is open book. Okay? Because it's more of a self-directed analysis. Okay? He wants to see how proactive the students are. Okay? So now, like that, done. Now what about the spouse relief? Now remember again, we have said, nothing mentioned about the income or anything like that. That means all these conditions are met. The paragraph also mentions about 2 children he has. Now remember, please identify in the exam and the relevant relief that is eligible for each of the children. Now remember, child relief is equal to A plus B. We have gone through. And because you're claiming it under the husband's name, he is entitled only to the A portion. Okay? Now what else is given? The question also mentions that his mom is with him. Okay? Alright? Nothing else mentioned. Okay? Conditions met because for parent relief, the mother must be staying in Singapore. Okay? So yes, they already tell you he's together with him. Okay? 9,000. Okay? So be very familiar with the criteria, conditions and everything pertaining to reliefs. And if you find that this particular condition are not mentioned, then what will you do? That means it is satisfied. That's why it is not mentioned. Very simple. Okay? Done. That's about all the reliefs. So we are getting our subtotal, which is your CI. Now once you have derived your CI, what is next? Now, remember again, this we have highlighted one more time, just to mention, okay, so you don't forget, is your reliefs, if you are doing for YA 2018, right, you must know it is maximum reliefs that you are able to get is capped at 80,000. We have gone through all this. Okay, so take note. With effect from YA 2018 onwards, your maximum personal relief claimable is kept at 80K. Okay? Alright, so all these are what we have done together with your revision questions that we have done in lecture 6. So you notice that, okay, yes, we didn't exceed, nothing to restrict. Alright, done. What's next? Please apply the correct tax rate table. From your master tax guide, you can extract. And I'm doing it for YA 2017, be it YA 2017 onwards. That means YA 2018, it will be this tax rate. Then choose your tax bracket. This one, 140. Therefore, I will be choosing this bracket. Tax on the first 120K is so much, and the balance at 15%. Okay? So that's how you're going to calculate the values. Okay? So, tax on first 120,000 and the balance. All workings please clearly show, okay, at 15%. And please remember, up to CI don't show cents, no point, decimal points. But the minute you start using your tax rate table, and if there are any decimals, then you must round up or round down to 2 decimal places. Okay? Giving you a total tax payable of so much. Now, if I'm doing for YA 2018, this is where you stop. Okay? With regards to tax computation for YA 2018, you will stop here. But if I'm doing for YA 2017, what did we say? There is a tax rebate. Alright, a one-off tax rebate, which is 20% of the tax payable, but it is kept at 500. Okay? That's it. And giving you the net tax payable. Also much. I will leave the, remember I told you that just to show you, okay, the revision questions that are behind your tax workbook, okay? The revision questions that are behind your tax workbook and the model answers, I'm just leaving here so you know, okay? So I'm just leaving it here for you to see. If you want, you can take a picture, or you know, it's all, I mean, I just photocopied from the textbook. Okay. Now, if you're done with this, then I'm looking at the last segment, which is on companies. Okay? So take a look at that one. I'm looking at this. Okay, you're done, then I can do this. I'll just leave it there, okay, for you to take a picture if you want to. And I'm going to touch on the key elements here. Now, like I said, right, we have covered all the computational aspects. It is basically the administrative aspects that I'm actually touching on, okay, with regards to your notes. And like I said, you just need to focus on all those things that we are doing. Okay? If there is anything that you feel that we did not actually go through, that means you don't have to worry about it. Okay? As simple as that. Now if you're done, I just want you to flip and read the first slide, which is determining the resident status of the company. So please read that. You have not yet done it, and I'm going to go through by giving you a summary on the resident status. How do I determine the resident status of a company? Ready? Have you read? Okay, so I'm going to go straight into the summary portion. And remember, determining the, okay, make it easy for you. In this entire thing, right, what is important is this one. Okay, so I'm just going to focus on this. Which is, how do I determine the resident status of a company? The rest are reading materials for your knowledge. Okay, yeah? So I'm going to focus on that only. How do we determine the resident status, okay, of a company? Now, if you notice, I've already done this. Where? When we did the portion on director's fees. Okay, so let's go through. Determining the resident status of a company. Now, how do I determine the resident status of a company? I will look at the question to decide where is the control and management of the company. Okay, so in other words, to decide on the resident status of a company, you have to look at the question to decide, hey, where is this company's control and management? Alright, and next question, because I don't understand, right? Hey, how do I know where is the control and management of the company? In order to answer this question, I have to look at the question to find out where are the directors' meetings held. Okay, where are the directors' meetings held? And how do I decide where are the directors' meetings held? By looking at the question to see where is the AGM. Alright, or the question will say the directors meet in Singapore to make important policy decisions, or the AGM is in Singapore. See what I mean? So I look out for this. The minute I know that the AGM is in Singapore or the directors are meeting in Singapore to make important policy decision, what does that mean? It brings you to the next level, which is, that means the directors' meetings are held in Singapore. Okay? So, once you know that the directors' meetings are held in Singapore, what does that mean? That brings you up to the next level, which is to determine where is the control. So, the minute you know from the question, directors' meetings are held in Singapore, that means control and management of the company is in Singapore. And once you say the control of and management of the company is in Singapore, that means the company is resident in Singapore. Now this concept is extremely important. Okay? So therefore, where the company is registered, okay, where the company is registered, or where is it incorporated, does not determine resident status. Of a company. Follow? It doesn't determine the resident status of a company. In other words, let's say I'm going to tell you, okay, alright, I'm going to tell you, oh, this company, right, is incorporated in okay, let's make it like this company is incorporated in Hong Kong. Okay, because that's the example that we used for the direct. So you notice or not, this is the model we did for the director's fee. To determine the source of director's fee. This is exactly what we did. Why? Because director's fees are sourced where the company that is paying the director's fees is resident in. Okay, so that is why the model is exactly the same. Alright, so now, so therefore I use the same example. Company incorporated in Hong Kong. Okay, and board of meetings are all held in Hong Kong. What does that mean to you? So it should be no problem. The question you are addressing is, where is the resident status? So board of directors meetings are held in Hong Kong. I already tell you here. Okay, board of directors meetings held in Hong Kong means here. It's all Hong Kong. That means control and management of the company is Hong Kong. Therefore, company is resident in Hong Kong. You okay? Now remember, definitely, okay, as far as your exams, right? Your exams, you have 3 questions. Okay? 3 questions. And the proportion is 50% computation, 50% theory. So 25 marks is computation, 25 marks is theory lah. Simple as that, right? Now computation, no problem, because that's primarily all that we have done. We have all the format for individuals, companies, sole proprietorship, partnership. You open book some more. Even if you forget, you just open and see, right? And I've already told you, you will have no surprises for computation. Okay? All you need to do, alright, is number 1, go through whatever we did in class with regards to all the questions that have been posted for you in the Canvas, which we have all done already. All the questions you have done. And on top of that, you only need to do all those questions that are behind the text workbook, the revision question and the model answer that is also given. Enough. Okay? Do you need any other practice? No. Unless you have a lot of time now, of course, this practice. You know what I mean? Enough for computation. Now let's address theory. You definitely have one question on whatever is covered by Mr. Mike Carver. Okay? Now what did he cover? DTA. Correct? DTA. And I've already told you right from the very first lesson, the DTA question would be one between Singapore and Australia. Okay? Never between Singapore and Malaysia or Australia and Malaysia. Got it? It's always Singapore and Malaysia. Singapore and Australia. So you only need to know, you're listening, the DTA between Singapore and Australia. Now, you must apply this DTA to the question. So, you need to know, number 1, how do I determine the resident status of a company? Very important. Okay? So, you will use this to determine, given the scenario, in this company, number 1, is it considered as a resident in Singapore or resident in Australia? Okay? You will use this model. So let's say, for example, I'm going to tell you a company incorporated in Australia, and the board of directors, company incorporated in Australia, AGM and directors will meet in Australia to make important policy decisions. Now, with this, I already should know where is the company resident in. Okay? Why? Because they are already telling you the board of directors meetings are held in Australia. So, board of directors meetings held in Australia, control and management Australia, company resident in Australia. Got it? Now, definitely the examiner will not stop there, right? He will have to link it to your DTA one. So you better go and study your DTA. Huh? So why is DTA important? Now, if I just stop there, alright, if I just stop, that means my scenario was company incorporated in Australia and board of directors meeting in Australia. Immediately you must know. That means this company is Australian resident company. Okay? Next question. Is it a company resident in Singapore? Yes or no? Is it a company resident in Singapore? I just gave you this information. Is it a company resident in Singapore? No. Because they already outright tell you AGM is held in Australia, board of directors meetings held in Australia. So it's very clear, company is not a resident of Singapore. You okay? Now what do you mean by that? That means you are telling the examiner that, oh, this company is only an Australian resident company. It is not controlled or managed in Singapore. Agree or not? And the minute you say that it is purely an Australian resident company, not managed in Singapore, that means what you are telling him is, therefore, no need to use this tiebreaker test that the DTA will talk about. No need. You only use the tiebreaker. Remember, this one you must have studied your DTA. I already asked you to go and study. Must go and study. You will only do the DTA tiebreaker test if you find from the question, right, oh, this company is a resident in Australia and this company is also a resident in Singapore. Then you need to use the tiebreaker test, which your DTA will talk about. Okay, so remember, purely Australian resident company, no need to use tiebreaker. Meaning, no need to use the DTA agreement. Doesn't apply. Okay, so you need to know that. So that's how you apply the resident test with regards to a company. Now, still on this, we have already gone through source. It is very important for you to be able to identify whether the income, is it sourced in Singapore or is it sourced in Australia. This one we have already learned in our lesson 1 itself. Okay, so the source concept is very important for both or for all persons. Now notice I use person. Why? That means I must be able to determine, is this income, right, in the hands of the individual, is it sourced or not? Considered sourced. Okay, it will be the same principle, be it an individual, company, sole proprietor, whatever, source concept remains the same. So please study all this, okay? Alright, so when you talk about source, you have to distinguish why do you say it is sourced in Singapore. Now remember, again, okay, give you an example, rental income. How do I determine whether the rental income is sourced in Singapore? I look and see where is the property located. So as long as you're going to say property located in Singapore, that means rental income sourced in Singapore. You follow? And when you are explaining it, because this is to prepare you for all the theory questions, right? You must be able to justify. You cannot just simply say source in Singapore, full stop. You need to say why you say it is source in Singapore. You okay? Now, let's say, alright, this is an Australian company. Remember, we already said, right? Company incorporated in Australia. All the day-to-day activities are carried out in Singapore. Alright? But management, the board of directors meetings held in Australia. Something like that given. Straight away you must know where the company is registered, incorporated, and where the day-to-day activities conducted doesn't matter. But what matters is Where is the AGM held? Alright? Okay, next. The company is an Australian company. Okay? But it carries out all the business in Singapore. So how is the source of income subject to tax or not? So in order to answer this, you need to go through where is the permanent establishment of the business. Does this business, right, is considered to have a PE, permanent establishment in Singapore? Your Mr. Mike Curran would have already done this in the DTA when you go through. So please go through, all these are in there, okay, in your DTA agreement. Alright? If I'm not wrong, right, your Article 4 of your DTA agreement will define for you what is considered as a permanent establishment in Singapore. So you must become very familiar with the articles. He expects you to quote the articles to support your answer. Alright? So when you go through your DTA, it will tell you, Article 4 will define for you when is a company considered to have a permanent establishment in Singapore. Like for example, it is resident in Australia, but it has an office in Singapore. Okay? Or it has an agent in Singapore who is taking contracts from the local customer. Now, the minute you read the question, oh, got office in Singapore, then got agent who is taking the contract, got PE already. So that is why you must read your Article 4 to establish, hey, this company, does it have a PE or not? So even though it is an Australian company, if it is established that it has a permanent establishment in Singapore, then the profits derived from the business will be taxed in Singapore because it is sourced in Singapore. See what I mean? So please go through all this. Okay? Yes, because he has already said all these are covered already. Okay? In your lesson 1, lesson 1, 2, 3, you have gone through. So that is important. Okay? Now what else? Now remember, Australia, they use this worldwide basis. So even though it is subject to tax in Singapore, right, they may still be, this Australian company, they can still be taxed on the income in Australia, but they will be able to get the so-called reliefs under DTA. So you must go through your DTA. Your DTA very important. It will explain all those agreements between the taxability of income. Okay? Now, this is for companies, right? Likewise, you need to apply for individual. Okay? So for individual, remember your first step. We have already done in lesson 2, right? Okay? In lecture 2, I've already given you the model to determine the resident status of an individual. Okay? I cannot find out. Okay? It is your lecture 2. Now, when you look at your lecture 2, what will you do? First thing, always remember this model is important. Okay? So when you explain, make sure you answer this concept to determine the resident status of a company. Okay? Now again, resident status, how will your DTA apply? Your DTA will apply if you are going to tell, okay, from the scenario, oh, he is a resident in Australia as well as he is a resident in Singapore. See what I mean? Whenever you have this kind of thing, then you have no choice, you need to apply the tiebreaker test. Okay? So your DTA agreement comes in place based on all these rules. So remember, your resident status for individuals is extremely important. So please go through, and qualitative test is what you will apply first, fail, and then you will use the quantitative test. And please note, citizenship is not a determinant to test for resident status. Okay, and just because the individual is away for just a short while, and he is actually, staying overseas while he is attached to the company, training and all that, you must know, does not mean he is a resident of that country. Okay, he still belongs to Singapore. So the minute you say, right, based on the scenario, oh, he is only a resident of Singapore, he is not a resident of Australia. Immediately you must know the tiebreaker test from your DTA doesn't apply. The tiebreaker will only apply if you say that resident in Australia, resident in Singapore. Then the tiebreaker rules will apply. Okay? So please go and study on that. Huh? So definitely you will have this question. Alright? Involving DTA. And like I said, DTA means the scenario will be something on company and individual. You need to know what is the rule to apply with regards to determining the resident status of a company and the individual, and based on this, you build up your argument. Is that okay? DTA is extremely important. You are expected to quote the relevant articles to support your answer. Okay? That's it. Alright. So you have 50%, 50%, 25% computation, 25 marks computation and 25 marks theory. Definitely, I said one on all these individual companies and your DTA. You can never escape that. Definite one. Okay? And you have another one, like I said, it could be on any segment. Given a scenario, is it subject to tax? Okay, the receipt received, is it taxable, not taxable? Alright, or if they are talking about expenses, is it a deductible expense or not deductible expense? Okay, and that's why, remember, we said the topic 4 on deduction is extremely important. Please go through case laws to support your answer. That's it. Alright, so that's about all that you are preparing, and that's it. If you have no questions, you can go off. All the materials are there for you. Now, only one more thing, okay, to wrap up. Now, if you don't remember, I told you from that topic 10, you only need to focus on the resident status of the company. Now, the only thing that I want you guys to take note of is, which I mentioned when I did the outline for you with regards to the company's tax form. Okay, this one. Now, only thing is this. If you are doing a computation on sole proprietorship partnership, as long as you have a trade loss brought forward, no problem, I can get a deduction, no problem. But if it is a company, I cannot just simply set off, I must pass shareholders test. Okay? Likewise, in the case of capital allowances, okay? In the case of capital allowance, again, for company, I must, in order to offset my brought forward balance, I must pass shareholders test. Okay? You need not worry about what is the shareholders test. The one you will not be tested. You just need to know, oh, for company, right, if I want to offset capital allowances and losses, I must pass shareholders test. Full stop. Okay, this is to justify if there are any questions on that. But you will not be asked, okay, how do I apply this? Okay, so that portion you don't need to worry about. Okay, that is why I said for topic 10, you just focus on this segment. Okay, then you're fine. Clear? Alright, that's about all I have to tell you, and wishing you all the best. So don't worry, as long as you prepare along these lines I've given you, you should be able to clear the exam very well. Okay, so remember to give me your hard copy, and all the materials are here for you. I will just put it down there. There's nothing else. I'm just putting the revision questions.